Here's your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, the franchise guide.
David, I guess before we dive in, I'm really excited to have you on the show today, is maybe give the audience a little bit of a background as to kind of who you are. And, we'll start diving into Sorsoap, because I find this business model in the business.
Thank you. I am a 50-year-old ex-athlete who still trains and plays like I'm still in the peak of my career, but I don't recover as quickly as I used to. I've got 3 kids, a beautiful wife, dog, the whole thing. My name's David. I started SOAR about 5 years ago, and we are a recovery company that's bringing a different way and a simpler way to treat yourself to the masses. It all kind of started in my shower, Giuseppe, if we're being transparent here. During COVID, my men's soccer leagues were all shut down. As we all kind of know, we were impacted in different ways. We were working from home. We were working out from home. I started to get into distance running just to kind of fill that void that soccer had left. One day after a run, I came back, I got in the shower, my hip flexors were really sore, and I grabbed a bar of green soap that had a little curve on the bottom, and I started to scrape my muscles like an athletic trainer or a physical therapist has done to me in the past, and it felt great. I kind of had an idea in my mind. I'm a graphic designer and an artist by trade. So immediately I pictured, well, what if we could make this easier to hold, a little bit more utilitarian, shape it like a real physical therapy tool, and give the user the ability to hang it up in the shower, on a little holder. And that was the day that Sorsoap was born. Jumped out of my shower. My wife thought I was crazy, ran to my studio, started doing 3D renderings, started designing a logo that you see here. We've adapted and adopted that right from the beginning. And that's how it started. A couple of weeks later, I called my physical therapist and I asked him if he was interested in starting a company around the idea. And that's how it all began.
That's awesome. Well, it's amazing to hear where these ideas come from. They say, the shower is where a lot of ideas happen. They say, I don't know what it is. It's the noise. I actually invested in a Shark Tank product years ago, Aqua Notes, I think it was called. It's waterproof. You got the pencil and the paper, you jot stuff down, but you have to remember to tear the paper off and bring it back with you. That's the only catch, but I recommended it to everyone because I always have my ideas showering. So we're getting into way too much information.
That's where my head is at a lot of times, to be honest with you. I've actually looked into that. When you're doing something that you've done a million times, like when they say it's like riding a bike, you don't really think about what you're doing in the shower because it's a rote behavior. We've done it since we were little. Part of your brain is freed up to think about those other bigger, more, abstract ideas because you're just kind of going through the motions. You're relaxed. The environment is relaxing and comforting to begin with. And that weighs into our company, to be honest with you. We've brought recovery into the shower because there's so many things that you could combine in life, but the daily routine of washing is something that we never skip. It's a comforting place and it's a routine, and soap is a commodity. So we're trying to bring a little bit of a different aspect to that daily routine. And you're 100% right, though. The shower is a great place to relax and let your mind wander and feel comfortable. It's a safe place. A lot of my life revolves around the shower now, to be honest with you. A lot of my content, a lot of my interactions with customers. And, it's kind of like you alluded to, it's a little bit of a weird subject sometimes. It's something that we all share. Most of us experience muscle soreness, in one point or another in our life. But
we were talking about it before, and playing soccer and things like that. And as we get older, recovery is not what it used to be. So and by the way, if you're watching any of David's content, just be aware, there may be a shower scene.
There was a lot more frequency of me in the shower at the beginning when I was trying to get the idea across. Now I try to limit it to one out of every 5 or 6 posts. But at one point, here's a funny story. My mother-in-law said to me one day, she said, I've seen you in the shower way more than I ever expected. And she was joking around, of course, but, it's true. But once I got over the whole, what do they say? Get out of your comfort zone, right? If you're going to be the face of a company, which when we first started this company, my partner's a physical therapist, Dr. Dan Statz. I was naturally the one in front of the camera a little bit, but I wasn't as comfortable. You do a podcast, you're interviewing people, you're obviously great in front of the camera, you're comfortable with yourself. But it's probably taken some time to hone that skill and feel that comfort level. So for the first couple of months, maybe, to half of a year at the beginning, I was focused on the product and I was trying to limit the, being the face of the brand, so to speak. But to be honest with you, when I embraced it and really just made it authentic and genuine, we get a lot of good reactions to it, and we get a lot of people saying what you said. I enjoy your content, and it shows a little bit of behind the scenes stuff, and it shows who's behind, who's doing the work and who's the company, so to speak. And that's something that Dan and I discuss all the time. He makes a lot of educational content and clinical content, and I think it's a good representation of the company.
Right.
There's a lighter side to it, and there's a scientific side to it, and together he and I kind of represent both aspects, which is nice. It's a nice combination.
Yeah. I will say it makes it fun. It's also kind of, behind the scenes, what's going on, deliveries, who's getting what. So yeah, I think it's great. And Dan, who our kids go to school together, and I met Dan years ago. He is your physical and your partner, right? Both physical therapy and partner.
Yep. He was my physical therapist for years before the whole notion of Sorsoap started.
So do you have, so how did the product evolve? Because I know it started off, there was I forget the material. Was it steel? Was it, there was a steel, and then there's the actual soap. So how did the product evolve into that?
So there's a lot of steel. There's a lot of metal tools that you'll find. We could go back and do the history of it. Muscle scraping's been around for centuries,
Right.
Generations. It started in, there's Far East versions of this, gua sha, jade tools, wooden tools, stone tools. And then there was a version in ancient Rome and Greece that the gladiators would use a bronze or a brass tool to scrape their muscles clean.
Okay.
They didn't really even understand at that point. I mean, I'm assuming they didn't understand that what fascia was and what soft tissue recovery was at that point. They were using a thing called a strigil they'd rub oil on their muscles, and they would scrape the oil off, and it would clean them and get the dirt off their skin after training or combat or, exercise, whatever it was.
Right.
In the process of that, unknowingly, they were also mobilizing soft tissue, and it probably felt great. So this concept's been around forever. We're just the first people to make it out of soap. So we make an ultra hard bar of essential oil loaded soap. It's got menthol in it. And we have a couple different formulas. This is our original formula that we launched with. It's got menthol, lavender, and chamomile with it. And you get in the shower and you use it like a muscle scraping tool. The cool thing about it is it's very user friendly. It's soap, right? It's not metal. There's no danger involved. Like if you're using a metal clinical tool, there is a small instance where you could hurt yourself on a tendon or a nerve. Our tools are a little bit more, do-it-yourself friendly, especially because they're soap. They get you clean. Smells great. Gives you an aromatherapy angle that you otherwise wouldn't have in the shower. We make it in the United States of America. We make it in Omaha, Nebraska. And then, like you alluded to before, we also make our version of the muscle scraping tool, a non-soap version. It's called Sore Tool. And this came out after this whole idea, but we realized there was a hole in the market for athletes and other people that were on the go. A metal tool is heavy. You can't just throw it in your pocket and go for a run. It clangs around. It's not user friendly, so to speak. So we made a super lightweight tool. It weighs less than, a small pack of Sour Patch Kids or a goo that you'd bring with you on a run. The running world has really adopted this tool. They keep it in their runner vests. They keep it in their shorts. We were at the Philadelphia Marathon a couple of months ago, and we sold so many of these to runners. Once they, came over and talked to us, and Dan would show them how to use it with a little bit of cream. It glides with sweat. Right. And it was a great experience to interact with all these runners. And then the next day we got a bunch of text messages and posts on Facebook tagging us, on Instagram saying, I hit my PR yesterday, and I owe some of it to the fact that I had a muscle scraping tool with me, which was really a cool thing.
That's awesome. You try it, which actually brings us to the next topic here.
What's the secret behind Sorsoap's unique formula and muscle scraping design? Find out in our next segment as David dives deeper into the product's evolution.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to learn how to make the transition from corporate to owning your franchise, join Giuseppe on the next episode. You can also follow on all social media platforms and achieve financial and time freedom today.